Hello, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for joining us for this special webinar with a very special guest, Luke Coogan from Columbia Threadneedle Investments. Today, Luke's going to be speaking to an investment topic that's been pretty hot lately and doesn't seem to be going away anytime soon, and that's artificial intelligence. At Hendricks Wealth and Estate Management, when it's suitable for a client's portfolio, we look to invest just a small percentage into what's known as specialty sector funds, and these specialty sectors allow us to focus investments into a very specific slice of the economy, like biotech, quantum computing, and you've guessed it, artificial intelligence. So now I'm going to turn it over to Luke to discuss technology investing. Is AI opportunity or hype? Luke?
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here speaking with you and all your clients and yeah, very excited at the opportunity and certainly to Jim, to your point, technology and artificial intelligence seems to be the number one topic in the industry. So you can't look at the news, read a newspaper, without hearing or reading about AI. So my goal, here over the next 15 minutes or so is to make sure that each of you who listen to the call or listen to this webinar come away with a really good understanding of what AI is as an investment and be able to answer a few questions, which is, should I own AI or do I already own AI? So this presentation is broken down in three sections. The first section, I'm going to speak broadly to the tech landscape and why it's important. The second section, the middle section, is I'm going to talk about AI and what is AI. And the last is kind of speaking to the AI economy and the use cases for AI. So with that slide, Jim. So I want to start again by setting the table on why tech's important, and this is something that I'm sure everyone may have a good idea of, but may not really fully appreciate the scale. And really this slide shows that tech is the dominant force in the markets today that drives the market. And you can see that tech at $16.5 trillion is the largest sector in the S&P 500. It's been the best performing sector for the past several decades and has certainly been the most innovative sector in the S&P 500. And the interesting thing, if you really look, at some of the other large sectors like comm services and consumer discretionary, there's a lot of tech adjacent companies in there. And tech adjacent is a loose term. They're very tech like, and think about in the communication services sector, the largest two companies are Google and Meta. Again, I think we can all make the case and agree that those are very tech-like companies. In the consumer discretionary, the top two companies are Amazon and Tesla. Again, I think those are pretty clear. So, tech and tech adjacent companies make up about half of the market. And we at Columbia Threadneedle, we think that AI is going to be the next innovative growth trend that's going to drive tech higher. Next slide, Jim. And one way that we measure this and measure tech's importance to the market is a concept that we call tech intensity. And it really, in simple terms, this is a way that we measure tech's impact on global GDP. So the blue bars on this chart represents global GDP. You can see over the past 15 years or so, global GDP has gone from 60 trillion to about $100 trillion today. And over that time, you can see tech's intensity, or this is global spending on tech as a percentage of global GDP, has also almost doubled. So that means that tech is gaining market share. And again, on the flip side, that means other sectors are losing market share. So really think about this like a competition. So again, tech is gaining, other sectors are losing. So again, so tech is becoming more and more important. Next slide. And so how is that? So this chart, goes through, going back to the 1990 and some of the big innovations that we've seen in the tech sector, and really technology and the internet. The internet is really what changed everything in the early 1990s. Right now, about 70% of the world's population is connected to the internet, which, amazingly on the flip side, again, means about 2 billion people aren't online. But as we've seen internet and usage of the internet grow, we also have seen the price of the Nasdaq index. And again, we believe AI is going to be that next big internet moment, and it's happening even faster. Next slide. So here's the speed, and so again, what this chart's showing is adoption, and it took about 50 years ago. It took, when PCs, computers just came out, it took about 12 years for PCs to get into 40% of US homes. 25 years ago, it took the internet about 5 years to get to that 40% of homes. Gen AI, it's taken less than 2 years. So we're seeing the adoption, the use cases, again, happen very, very fast. So we think that it's possible that AI, since the impact is being felt faster, the usage is being felt faster, and typically early investors are rewarded. We think it's possible that some of the best returns might be compressed as well within the AI economy. Next slide. So again, now that we've talked about how important AI is to the market and the tech sector, let's talk about what AI actually is. Next slide. So at its core, AI, it's really all about prediction. And again, I'm not going to get very tech and analytical on it, but it's essentially technology that uses huge data sets, huge algorithms, and they want to be able to predict and make predictions. So and make decisions that a human would make by using, again, just technology and data sets. And the more information that it gets and that we have to work with, the better predictions that it will make. Next slide. And one of the cool things that is we actually sort of can pinpoint when AI really began to accelerate, and it was in September of 2012. So on this day, there's a coding competition called ImageNet. So all the top coders around the world would go to this coding competition. It was in Toronto, and the task was they would say, is this picture a cat? Yes or no? And the best coders in the world, they would use CPUs, and then the best coders in the world, they would be able to get about a 50% success rate. So, they'd get it right about half the time. And in this year, again, in September 2012, there was two coders that went, and rather than using CPUs, which typically it's like using ones and zeros, they were the first coders that used GPUs, so graphic processing units. That's the chips that NVIDIA sells, and why NVIDIA has become the biggest company in the world. And so they use GPUs, and they increase the success rate to predict this picture from 50, they improved it. There was about a 15% failure rate. So huge breakthrough. They smoked the competition. And since then, there's something called Moore's Law in technology, which is basically since the 1950s, we basically demand twice the compute every 5 years. That's really shrank. Now it's twice the compute every 2 years. So that's why we're seeing this rapid progression. And really, this was the moment where things really started to accelerate. And fun fact, one of those coders was Sam Altman from OpenAI. The other was he works at Tesla. He leads their autonomous driving unit. So two, again, very successful coders, and to say the least, and two very important people for this AI economy. So this is a more of an interactive session, and the question is, basically, how many people think that they're using AI? And Jim, it might be better to just kind of flip through it. Basically, there was a survey done with some people, and when asked, about 36% of the people mentioned yes, we're using AI. 14% said we're unsure. 50% were saying they haven't been using AI. They do not use AI in their daily life, where actually the reality is 99% of us are already using AI. So basically the point is AI is here, we're using it. And where are we using it? If you think about it, it's Apple, Siri, Google, shopping apps, navigation, weather. social media, online shopping. All these things are, again, are part of our daily lives, and those are all, we're using AI already. So again, that's where that's the point really of this slide is AI is here, and it's already ingrained in our life. Slide. So, and again, in action, outside of just our daily life, businesses are using AI as well. I know personally, my company, we continue to adapt and improve some of the AI technology that we're able to use. I know personally, I've found it, very, increased productivity for myself. But if you look at some of the sectors that are using it as well, for example, in healthcare, drug discovery, diagnostics. So AI is actually detecting melanoma in patients just as accurate as dermatologists. In technology, AI has been at call centers has been a big use case. So AI is boosting call center productivity by about 20% with a study that was done by MIT. Right now, the number one revenue generator for AI is actually targeted ads. So Meta and Facebook, they're right now the biggest beneficiary of this advertised spending, and the reason is the ROI is here. So for every $1 that Meta and Facebook is investing in AI, they're getting about a $4.50 return on their investment based on increased sales and increased revenue. So, I like to share just a personal story, and a couple months ago, at this point, I was down in Florida with my family, and my wife, we took a family picture, and I was at a beach, and I didn't have sunglasses on. And a few days later, I got advertisements from, Ray-Ban, Maui Jim, other sunglass companies, and I didn't figure out why for a little bit longer. So that's how analytical and how targeted they can be. Is they saw me in the sun without sunglasses, so they sent me sunglass advertisements. So pretty powerful. I didn't buy sunglasses from those ads, but again, the return on investments there, and they're seeing it as well. And again, this is another fun example of just really to see how far that we've come. And if you really compare old technology to AI and our new technology that's on our phone, I'm sure everyone remembers the old Garmin's. When you were typing, you'd punch in an address, it'd give you the shortest distance. It didn't account for construction, traffic, anything like that. Where now, everyone has it on their phones, and it does that. If you want to stop at a gas station, if you to avoid traffic, all those types of things. If you want to avoid tolls, anything, it's all on our phone. So AI is how that's all happening, and it just kind of shows the big difference and the improvement that we've seen. Next slide. So now that we've talked about AI and now let's talk about how it's going to affect the economy. And really, there's two ways to grow an economy. We need to have more people, or we need to be more productive as a society. And again, I think the reason uh, countries and companies are investing in AI is because we believe and they believe that it's going to be a future driver of prosperity. And if we take a look over the past several hundred years, this basically shows when we've seen high levels of productivity. And when we think about it, so post Great Depression, we had an increase in productivity from things like electricity being in more homes, combustion engines, telephones being in our homes. Post World War II, we had a productivity boom. We had more people. Baby soldiers came home from World War II. They built ranch houses. They had a lot of babies, so we had a big population boom, and that helped productivity. At the turn of the century, the dot-com, the internet adoption, again, we saw across the board worker productivity spike. So but since then, we've been in kind of a relatively slower productivity environment, and it's not because we haven't been productive. It's because the United States was what had the highest productivity. So again, we've been pretty stagnant. And again, we think that AI is going to be that next generational productivity boost, and even just thinking about how big it could impact the economy. So when you think about the internet, basically the internet added about 10% to global GDP. So at the top there, you see that number $13 trillion. So if we use that as the baseline, we think AI is going to add about $13 trillion to the global GDP. And honestly, most analysts and our analysts think it could be even higher. But just using that as a baseline, we think that is obviously a very large number. Next slide. So well, again, expectations are high, and there's a lot of positives to think about. We also have to balance the risk and reward, and there are some risks when it comes to AI and the adoption of AI. You can see some of the charts here. 72% of Americans think that AI is going to negatively impact the spread of false information. 60% of Americans think that AI is going to impact their ability to get good jobs. 56% thinks it's going to negatively impact national security. And again, I would say in general, and what we think at Columbia Threadneedle, these are valid concerns, and these risks do exist. We don't have an answer for all of them all at once, but what we do know is with these risks, the investment and interest continues. So it's really just a matter of, do the rewards outweigh the risk? And it does certainly seem like that's the case today. And again, even with these risks, the interest of investing in AI is very high. So this chart right here is showing Google search trends. You can see the dark blue line is Google searches for AI stocks to buy. So again, we see a lot of fears, but individuals and investors are hungry to learn about the next greatest, the latest and greatest, the best AI stock to buy. And honestly, again, what we're going to talk about in the next few slides is, we think that could be a little problematic, because we want investors, and how we think about it is we want to think more about the AI economy. Next slide. Because honestly, in order to make all this AI work, it's going to take a ton of spending in infrastructure. You can see, we think about $7 trillion of infrastructure investment is going to be required to make all this AI work. And think about a data center. We need HVAC, cooling, grid, electrical grid systems, building and warehousing. We need space, construction, all that labor. Again, like on the charts here on your right, this shows annual data power consumption by data centers. You can see about 2% of all the energy was used by data centers. That number is expected to grow close to 20%. Another stat, it takes 2.8 gigawatts to power a data center, an Oracle data center that they're building. That's the same amount of energy that's required to power the whole city of San Francisco. So we are going to need a lot of infrastructure and investment spending. So again, it's not just a Silicon Valley story. Next slide. As you can see here, like I said, not just a Silicon Valley story or a tech story. Data centers are being built across the country. There's more data centers being built right now than that there's ever existed in the past. And you can see in some of the countries where it's the dark blue. So right now, West Virginia has the most data centers. Ohio has, each one of the Mag 7 companies has a data center in Ohio. Intel's building a $30 billion facility today. So again, all the infrastructure, the HVAC, the cooling, the labor, that's the benefit's going to be felt across the globe, not just concentrated to Silicon Valley like we've seen in other tech expansions in the past. And so what this chart is showing is countries and how many companies in each country has a net income of more than $1 billion. And you can see out of the gate, the United States has certainly been the place to be in terms of the countries that have had the most success with AI. We have over $55 billion companies, but again, we know that countries, the other countries are investing and working towards, closing the gap and competing. So again, Taiwan, Korea, Canada, other countries are investing and they're trying to play catch up. So again, we think it does make sense to think about this as a global opportunity, not just a US story going forward. And again, closing out, there's a few other things that I would just say, and Jim and the team, they've got a lot of resources at their disposal. Columbia Threadneedle, tech is one of the things that we do very, very well. We're one of the largest tech managers in the industry. We have over $30 billion now. Our tech strategies have been growing. We've got a lot of resources, 33 dedicated PMs, analysts. We have a long history, 35 plus years. We've got some of the longest tenured funds. So, going through this whole presentation, this wasn't made by a marketing group or things like that. This was made by people that have a lot of success, a lot of history, and a lot of knowledge in this space. So, again, closing out, we certainly appreciate the chance, Jim and team, to share this with your clients. And hopefully, like I said in the beginning, you've got a better sense of what we think about tech and the opportunity ahead. And AI is going to be a huge story for many years to come. That's going to, again, continue to feed the tech sector going forward.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks, Luke. That was great. And it's amazing. Like every day on my drive to work, up out here in Algonquin, Illinois, I drive past a facility that was the old Sears corporate headquarters that got torn down, and it is being rebranded as or redesigned as a data center. So I get to see that through the teardown and now the rebuild of what it takes to go into a data center. I pass it every day, so kind of eye-opening. So, but definitely some opportunities there. So, thanks so much for your awesome information. Before I get into the slide that's up there right now, there is a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. So if you have any questions regarding AI, please feel free to type that in there. For right now, our next presentation, we do these on a weekly basis every Wednesday at 11:30. And as I say, every Wednesday at 11:30, in 2 weeks it won't be. But next week, Jim Hendricks, the owner of our firm, will be doing a presentation on "You're a Millionaire. Congratulations. Now avoid these mistakes millionaires make." So that's next Wednesday at 11:30. The one that's not going to be a Wednesday at 11:30 would be primarily for residents of Illinois on June 24th at 5 o'clock in the evening. We will be at Oak and Alchemy Smokehouse and Woodfire Pizza in Woodstock, Illinois, and we're going to be speaking, it's an Ask a Financial Advisor Anything, so an open forum with some good barbecue and wood-fired pizzas there. Again, that's June 24th. And then on July 1st, we're going to have another special guest, Amanda Nelson of Senior Lifestyle Solutions. She's going to speak to aging in place. So you can always visit our website, hendrickswealth.com, and go to the events tab. You can see upcoming events. If you wanted to see replays of anything we have done in the past, you can go to our resources page and go to the video archive, and it's all available there. So, Luke, I do not see any questions that have come in. So with that, I will wrap everything up, and I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us here. If you have any questions about anything, you can feel free to reach out to us here at Hendricks Wealth and Estate Management. Our phone numbers for the Illinois office or to Tom down in the Florida office are on the screen, or you can email us at info@hendrickswealth.com. Thanks so much for joining us, everyone. We'll see you next time.